Yo, the play is better on the field. The results remain the same. The Edmonton Elks head to Vancouver looking for their first win of the season off the backs of their high-powered offense, while their defense looks to find their groove. On the other side, a Lions team that's looking to further stake its claim as the new team to beat in the West. It's Thursday Night Football, Elks, Lions. But first, this is the Green and Gold Kickoff Show live at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day, just off of Fort Road. Iwanyk, Jay Milne with you here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in iHeartRadio as well as those watching on YouTube. Your thoughts always welcome. 780-218-9999. That is the Parish Jewelers inbox, or you can jump into the nasty chat. Vera Montenegro was in early on the kickoff show. It was like 30 minutes before we started. He was in there going, greetings, green and gold nasties. Let's get into it with the starting lineup of this game for your Edmonton Elks. And leading the way, it is quarterback McLeod Bethel Thompson. The men protecting him from left to right, Ivy, Foucault, Cordy, Stewart, and Boyko with his first game of the season. The receiving core, Lewis, Gittins Jr., Mitchell, Cobb, and Smith. Brown, the running back. Green is the fullback. Defensively, on the D-line, Alfano, Kemdici, Curtis, and Brown. The linebacking core with Morgan in between Anderson and O'Neill. In the secondary, Gray, Bratton, Purifoy, Bynum, and Lewis. BD kicks, Julian punts, and Javon Leake is your kick returner. You just keep trying to bring yourself higher up there. Injury report. Jay?
Well, as Maddie said, right tackle Brett Boyko is finally into the lineup in Game 4. He's been cleared from his head injury. Linebacker and special teams guru Josiah Shackle is back in. That's good news, special teams wise. He's a bit of a special teams demon out there, so that's positive for the Elks. Unfortunately, Herji Mayala, Herji Mayala, say that 10 times, is out with ham. I was going to
say, are we doing Herji Mayala or just Mayala?
Herji Mayala. Okay, it's maybe not.
Herji Mayala. Might have been 11.
But Gavin Cobb is back in after dealing with a hip injury, so it'd be interesting to see him in his first game of the year. By all accounts, and what we saw at training camp, anyways, there was a connection there with McLeod Bethel Thompson. And I mean, if they can add another connection to what is already a pretty solid quarterback receiver relationship, that would be beneficial as well.
Looking at the BC line, some of the players to watch, obviously, Vernon Adams Jr., the starting quarterback for the Lions. William Stanback coming over to BC from Montreal this past offseason. A couple top Canadians, or a couple top receivers, one being Canadian with Hollins, and then Justin McInnes, who's the Canadian in that receiving core. Defensively, they got two guys who are at the top of defensive tackles. Not so good for the BC Lions, as one of those is out with injury, but Josh Woods leads that linebacking core in the middle linebacker spot. He is second in the CFL when it comes to defensive tackles. When it comes to weather, it doesn't matter. It's a dome. Oh. It's going to be nice. It's going to be fantastic. It's prime conditions.
I'm switching things up.
What are you switching?
We talked about this pregame because, all I've been having was my teas or a coffee pregame.
That's right.
Kickoff show. But you know what, tonight?
Because your voice is really still just hasn't come back.
Yeah, you know what? It just might be the new Jay. That's what I keep telling my wife. This might just be me. I don't know. We're going to go with the 6 o'clock locker, folks.
Lager.
Locker.
Not locker. He hasn't had a 6. Well, I haven't had one during the kickoff show. So, hey, look, the Oilers season turned around on American Thanksgiving, the Friday. We launched the 6 o'clock lager. We had the watch party. We drank it. You're now bringing that. You're bringing the 6 o'clock juju.
I'm bringing the good
to
juju
the kickoff
back.
show.
Yes.
To the kickoff show. On the kickoff show today, we will get to our 3 stories of the game, our Coolbet prop of the game, which will feature our Coolbet game day parlay that I built that's up on Coolbet right now. We'll hear from Chris Jones, head coach, general manager of your Edmonton Elks, as well as we'll give our keys to an Elks victory. But first, question of the night: are the Elks a better team this season? The 3 options I threw up on Twitter. Yes. Have you watched the games? They're the same. They're 0-3. Or no, they are worse. Jay, I'm going to first let you figure out. I'm going to let you just answer, and then I will give you the answer of our Twitter poll. You could always get in touch with us as well. Nasty Chat, Paris Jewelers.
Well, you asked me, and you said, do you want to wait and make it a surprise? I said I love surprises. So A, yes. Have you even watched the games? It better be an overwhelming answer and support in A's category.
7.9% of the vote goes to the same. Still 0-3. 40.8% saying yes, have you watched? While 11.3% saying they are worse.
It's just not like
you can't say they're worse. That's just
there's 0% chance you can say they're worse.
Let's go to last year to start.
The only way you can say and vote for B is if you're actually talking factually 0-3. Duh, we get it. But this is a much improved team. The numbers back that. I get that they're still 0-3. But you cannot deny the fact that this is the teams they've lost to are all undefeated at this point. I mean, they haven't lost the duds. So now they're taking on a game in which nobody thought at the start of the year that they would have a chance at winning. I still think this is a coin flip. Tell me otherwise.
Today's game's a coin flip?
Sure, yeah.
Well, we'll get into that. I'm not so sure it's a coin flip. The line was last I saw minus 7.5. Coolbet's given BC a touchdown here. I wouldn't say that's a coin flip.
Yeah, that doesn't. I mean, ask Norman at Combine what he thinks of Coolbet right now. He had a little rough go there with the Oilers.
Last year, the Edmonton Elks lost their first game 17-13. They then went to BC and got shut out 22-0. And then they lost to the Argos 43-31. This season, the Edmonton Elks, started with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, lost 29-21. So in theory, that's worse in a sense. But then lost 23-20 to the Owls and 39-36 to the Argos. Even if you just go Argos' third game back-to-back years, it went from the 43-31 loss to a 39-36 loss and going on the road. This team, they are better. They are better. I understand those that are still voting, though, for the same, still 0-3. I could understand where they're coming from. Just because the record, that's what matters in the end. It's not about stats. It's not about what the full eye test. Ultimately, what matters in sports is wins, losses, and they are 0-3. There's no way you could say that this team though is worse. That's just it's factually incorrect, like in every way, shape, or form.
You're just really digging your heels in and saying
you're upset.
You're upset, which you have every right to be upset.
I'll say emotional, a little emotional.
You're a fan. You can be whatever you want, as long as it makes sense in your head. Doesn't make sense in my head, which is why I would clearly vote for A, that this team is vastly improved. I mean, I went through the numbers last week on the pregame show, up 14 points per game.
This is going into last week.
2023 to but it couldn't have got worse. Up in net yards, up in second down conversions. All those numbers held, if not got better, through last week's game against the Argos. So statistically, you are naive if you think that this team is the same as last year. They're not. Just they haven't gotten the wins. It's plain and simple. Now, leading into tonight, Zulu, he says in the Nasty Chat, I'm on the Elks plus 7.5, but the D needs to step up. I 100% agree with that statement. If the offense plays the same way they did last week and the D can put something together and make a stop, specifically after a Elks score, which, as you pointed out last week, was a big problem for them.
4 touchdowns met with 4 touchdowns given up.
It's like, the Oilers used to be, I guess they'd have that issue where they'd score a quick goal and then, boom, one's in the back of the net before the announcer can even announce it. That was happening to Edmonton last week. So, yeah, I mean, this is a game that is, I would say there's a lot of pressure on that defense, and rightfully so. I mean, you're going to talk about BC's offense and what they can do, but they're in for it tonight.
We are live at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day. The game day specials, every Elks home game an hour before the game, during the game an hour after the game. Cheese and jalapeno smoky, the 6 o'clocker lager that Jay is having, as well as game day draft. They also have their wonderful daily specials. It is Thursday, which means it's smoked brisket cheesesteak night, and that's always a fantastic choice as well. Eric getting us on that during his Thursday Night Football appearances all throughout the NFL season here at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. But come join us, even if not tonight, any game. We are here every single Elks game, home and away, for the pregame and the postgame show. And what's even more wonderful, especially about the away games and most of the home games, you can watch it with Jay and I. I can't think of 2 better people to watch a football game with than Jay and myself.
What a treat.
It's what Troy loved it last week. T-Roy, I think, really enjoyed it.
The time of his life.
I haven't heard from him since. Actually, I have a story to tell you about something that happened here with Troy. I don't think he knows about it either. But
now a little side note here: the restaurant is packed.
It's the prime rib night.
Prime rib.
So what is it, $9.99 or something for the prime rib dinner or something? And there's always a lineup for it.
Yeah.
I should have got here earlier to get in on that. Although I had the prime rib sandwich last Saturday and it was delicious.
Lots of people my parents' age here.
Yeah, I don't care.
I'll
still
go
eat that. I'll still
I'll
go
hold
eat
your
that.
hand.
No problem.
I don't care.
Let's get into our 3 stories of the game. Oh, the Gazzola's in the nasty chat, except without the wrench. So he's not the wrench right now. What's up, nasties? He goes with.
What's that?
Great commercial. That still holds up.
One of the best.
Let's start with storylines. Naturally, the first 2, you mentioned it. The defense needs to be better, so the first 2 storylines actually focus a lot on the defense. We're going to start with the Edmonton Elks secondary taking on the BC Lions wide receiving core. I mentioned it as in the players to watch. You got Alex Hollins, last week 250 yards receiving for the Lions. He's got 402 yards so far this season through just 3 weeks. Justin McInnes, so that leads the Canadian Football League. Justin McInnes is number 3 in the Canadian Football League, 289 yards total. Vernon Adams is the number 1 passer in the Canadian Football League in terms of passing yards. He's averaging 346 yards per game. This is a daunting challenge for this Elks secondary. You were a secondary player. How do they go about trying to match up against this high-powered passing offense of the BC Lions?
You're never going to stop them. You have to be self-aware enough to know that they're going to get plays on you. You need to limit the big plays. In particular, I would like to hear less of Kai Gray's name tonight in a negative manner as we have in past weeks. Or, the strong side cornerback in Lewis. They've had some issues out at the corner. And they've also had issues in behind their linebackers. So this is going to be a test. Now, I would say give up on the thought that you're going to hold them under a certain number of receiving yards. Say you're going to hold them under 250. I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think you need to do that in order to win. You need to limit the big plays and the big errors because this is a high-powered offense. I mean, Vernon Adams he's the first quarterback in the CFL this year to go over 1,000 yards, 6 TDs, and he's got an interception-free streak of 95 consecutive pass attempts, and that's since week 1. I mean, that's impressive. They've also gone the first time without sacks in consecutive games since August of 2018.
That looked like a big concern for them in week 1. They gave up 6 sacks. It looked like they went in the offseason. They didn't fully go shore up and fix up that offensive line, and VA was going to get destroyed again. They've played a little bit better, but also maybe that's just a little bit of Vernon Adams. He has those legs.
Well, I mean, they've got sack leader in the CFL sack leader Noah Curtis coming at them. They've got Elliott Brown, who's not far behind him with 2 sacks, and of course Robert Kimdiche in the middle that can disrupt things. So
the Elks actually lead tied with Montreal for most sacks by defense.
And what else did they lead in? Passing defended yards, right?
Well, yeah, and that's what I find fascinating about this. Statistically, the Elks actually have the number 1 passing defense in the Canadian Football League through 3 weeks. They're only giving up 262 yards per game, which is slightly better than Montreal, but through 3 games, they are the best. But watching the games, this is where sometimes the stats versus eye test, it's not there because
it does not match.
Does anyone who has watched these last 3 games of the Edmonton Elks sit there and be like, nah, that secondary is the best in the CFL. I'm taking no one else above them.
You'd be surprised, which is why I think my jaw hit the floor when you told me that, because I would have a hard time believing that.
I think maybe what they do well in is, they could limit most drives, but then they just have big errors.
Well, and
they don't have small errors. They don't let the team just drive just a little bit. They just when they mess up, they mess up big.
Well, and truthfully, you've seen some of those longer plays have not come through the air, but rather on the run, off tackles. I mean, they've been burnt in every game for a 30, 40-yard touchdown off tackle. That's just a fact. So, yes, it may not be leading to scoring. It may not be telling the whole story, but their running back in Stanback has improved. He's continually improved over, and I guess we're getting into point 2, right?
Yeah, we'll get there in a bit. But it will play into this.
Sure.
But so now is this the secondary has to do a better job, or is this getting to VA? Is this the D-line needing to get the pressure to VA so we can't get to those receivers? Where it's because that's the one thing you hear is the best. Like for your secondary, it starts with your D-line.
100%, and they can't cover for more than 3 or 4 seconds. Then it's anybody's ball. And that was part of what I think is going to be a big key to this game, and we'll get into it a little later. But that front defensive line.
Well, we'll get into the other part, but the sack part of that is like, look, they may have not given up sack the last 2 weeks.
They're gonna tonight.
But the BC Lions have an O-line that is susceptible to that. Yeah, I'm not sold on them as an offensive line yet, so I feel like, especially when you're coming into this game tied with Montreal for the most sacks as a defensive line, you should be able to get to VA and force him to make a throw quicker.
They will.
Which will help your secondary because they're not allowing an Alex Hollins or Justin McInnes to just go running around to get open.
Well, and I mean, Alex Hollins was 7 receptions for 215 yards last week. And look for him on second down. He leads the CFL in second down conversion passing plays with 11 in total. He's their go-to guy on second and long situations, so look for him. And that is a weakness for Edmonton, is their second downs. Whether it's a second and short, second and long, it seems as though if they get into it, it's hard to get off the field, especially if it's not a 2-and-out. If it's a sustained drive and they put together 1, 2, 3 first downs, it might as well end up in a touchdown or a score. And, I mean, I don't want to get too off point, but I guess we've got to give credit where credit is due. But former Edmonton kicker Sean White is 8 for 8 on the season. And last week he became the all-time leader in field goals. He's got a career percentage of 87.99%. So kudos to him. But that's a great weapon to have. 8 for 8 this season.
When he was with the Elks, it was like within 40 was, I want to say his percentage would have been like 98%.
Bang on.
He was virtually guaranteed inside 40. I think late in his tenure with the Elks, he missed a couple, and that ruined a streak he had or something. Within 40, clutch. 40 to 50, it was still ridiculously high, his kicking percentage. It was beyond 50 that sometimes you could be hit or miss, but like it was like just guaranteed points. Well, and that's when you have a kicker like that, or any time you have a kicker that you just know they're going to go out there, they're going to put up 3. It's one, the guaranteed points, but 2, it's the mental aspect of the game where that offense, if they drive down the field and they get into field goal range and that kicker misses, it's just like we did all that and we're walking away with nothing. Whereas when you have that kicker, it's just you get into field goal range and we got points. Well, let's see if we can get the 7, but we know we've got 3.
He's the best in the CFL to ever do it. And think of the legends that would come across, the top of your head in Lou Pisaglia, Dave Ridgway. I mean, we had Sean Fleming here in our backyard forever. And to see what he's done here with that career percentage and the amount of kicks he's kicked. Like there are teams,
this isn't like 5 years of a career.
He's had a hell of a career.
The other thing about the BC Lions to watch for, too, is they go for the big plays. They lead the league in terms of passing, 20-plus yards, pass attempts. Also lead it with the completions of them at 14. 5 of their 6 touchdowns have been big plays.
Did you looking at my sheet?
We just write the same notes. We just write the same notes.
Great minds think alike.
Absolutely.
That is a hell of a stat, Matt.
Isn't it?
It really is, because that's what they need to limit tonight. If you can try your best to keep everything in front of you as a defense and not let those big plays happen, and especially when they do for the BC Lions, more times than not, it's ending up in 6 points.
Yep.
So limit those deep plays, and I think they can contain.
Well, that's of their completions of 20-plus pass yards, it's a third of the time as a touchdown.
Crazy.
That's just, that's ridiculous. And the Elks, they're second last in the league in terms of big plays allowed as a defense. So that clashing right there, that's what makes
doesn't bode well, does it?
It doesn't bode well. But statistically, the Elks secondary still are the pass defense #1 in the Canadian Football League.
Stats don't lie, I guess.
Stats
I just got
to
get to the Paris Jewelers inbox here. If you want to hit us up, 780-218-9999. We are keeping our eyes on that. Scalding Gord comes in and says Elks score 35-40 tonight. Not saying they will still lose, but they seem to find a way. Always defy those odds. Well, Scalding Gord, I'm having a 6 o'clock or lager. Maybe you should have one too. And we're going to change this whole thing around with just a sip of a beer. Can you imagine?
The special's almost done at Sobeys Safeway Liquor. What was it, $12.99?
Oh, yeah. You said you were going to stock up. How'd that go?
I haven't gone yet. So it hasn't gone well. I need to actually plan for that. Maybe that's a tomorrow project.
Well, the liquor store is going to be closed by the time we get out of here.
Noon or midnight? Noon. Midnight? What time does it close? I'm not doing it tonight. I need to go get sleep. I need my beauty sleep.
Hey, I'm doing the tip-to-tail shift here today at EST.
You had time to rest in between if you wanted
I had to clean a friggin' pool.
That's not my problem. That's not my fault. You could have went and you could have napped. This is the Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne with you here at Edmonton Sports Talk. Reminder, as soon as the Green and Gold Kickoff Show is done, you could watch the Elks game. But if you keep it locked here to Edmonton Sports Talk on our audio streams, tune in, iHeart, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. We'll join in progress the Edmonton Riverhawks game that is taking place down at Remax Field. Let's get to our second story of this game, and it is sticking with defense, and we've hinted at it already. We will now get to it, which is the Edmonton Elks front seven against the BC Lions run. You mentioned that William Stanback has been improving week after week so far in this early part of the season in terms of rushing yards gained. He is a top running back in this league. He's battled some injuries in the past, but he's just an unreal talent that came from the Montreal Alouettes. As it comes for the Edmonton Elks, though, week one did a great job against AJ Ouellette. Held him. Was it like 40-some yards or something that he had in that game? But the past 2 weeks, it has not been good. In week 2, 116 total rushing yards allowed, including Walter Fletcher, 82 and a touchdown in there. Week 3, last week, 186 yards of rushing allowed. Kadeem Carey, 104 yards and a touchdown. McMahon, 50 yards and a touchdown. The run, as we pass defense for the Elks, number 1. Still weird. But run defense, number 8 in the Canadian Football League, giving up almost 115 yards per game. Last week I started going, okay, this is a concern. I gave him the pass from week 2 from after Walter Fletcher because it was just, that felt like a couple of really big runs. But then what we saw last week where the Argos were over 100 yards rushing after the first half alone. They're going up against a good running back. The BC Lions historically don't generally like giving it to the running back, but Stanback has joined this team. That's the wrong thing to click. I see what you're looking at there. Your wife is pointing at something.
I'll show you it after.
No, you could put. I'm telling you, the thing at the left is just linked it all the time. She has to click watch live.
She said that's no good.
What do you mean it's no good? Takes us right to the kickoff show.
I don't know. Maybe
is she listening right now? April, you're doing it wrong. Look, but they bring in William Stanback for a reason, the BC Lions, and that's to give him the ball, and they've started doing that. They gotta contain the running game. It's just that simple.
Matty, what did I say just prior when I was talking about the run game and what has been their kryptonite in terms of the run game? It hasn't been up the middle.
It's the outsides.
It's the outside. It's the off tackles. So
who's that on? Is that on your ends or is that
that's
on your
Elliott
linebackers?
Brown and Antonio Alfano, who are your defensive ends who need to keep that contained and not get sucked inside. Keep the contain. Keep your outside arm free. Fight for that leverage to push it back inside towards where your strength is with O'Neill and Niles Morgan and Anderson, and they can come and clean that up. But if you're letting them off tackle, I mean, it's killed them. It's killed them the last 2 weeks. So I'd really look to see them, and it must have been adjusted by now. I certainly hope it has, because it's been a glaring thing. Do you know that Stanback is the league leader in rushing with 187 yards?
That just seems wrong.
Now this is only these.
Kadeem Carey did have a bye week in there,
right? So I mean, but
and Brady
still,
Olivier was banged up.
Isn't that a oddly low number to you? Just when you look at it and you hear it right off the cuff.
182 through 3 weeks.
That's 61, 62 yards a game. That's low.
I think the one thing we've seen in the Canadian Football League, though, is a lot of teams have 2 running backs that they generally feel like they can go to.
You should have seen Taisei Arushibara yesterday for Japan. That kid rushed for 200 yards on his own.
America panicking.
They are in a state of panic. And I like to be involved. I like to be a part of it.
I think you need to be. Robert Griffin III's tweeting out videos that feature your voice on it, and your analysis of it.
It brought a tear to my eye. It was something else. It was a sight to behold. But America is in ruin right now because of that game.
They also actually lost soccer today. A big upset.
Really?
Oh, huge one. They might get eliminated.
In
the
Copa?
Not, yeah, in the Copa. They might not advance out of the knockout stage. Canada might advance, and they might not. But we're not here to talk about football. We're here to talk about football.
I know that Canada needs a draw against Chile.
Draw might not be good enough.
Oh, boy.
If Peru beats Argentina, and here's how weird, okay, sidetrack here. This is how weird Copa is. So their first tiebreaker. So if Peru beats Argentina and Canada draws with Chile, they have the exact same amount of points. Canada beats Peru. The first tiebreaker, though, was goal differential, not head-to-head.
Oh, that makes sense.
So Peru would actually move on, not Canada, even though Canada defeated Peru. In the Euros, they actually do it reversed. It used to be, I think, goal differential, but they've changed it at one point because it makes more sense. They go head-to-head first, and if the head-to-head was a draw or something, then they go goal differential.
I wonder if that's why so many North Americans don't, follow soccer. It doesn't make sense.
Well, Europe does it, right? Copa America doesn't. But just get the win against Chile, and we're good. Okay, back to the running attack here. How much does it help, though, for the BC Lions, one, the pass attack, too, but the running attack, when you have a guy like VA who he can break it when he needs to? He's a mobile quarterback. He's a guy that he's not the Trey Ford in your eyes where he's always looking for a run. He's not looking for the run, but when he needs to run, he has the ability to go do it. He's got 65 yards on the ground this season, so averaging just over 20. How do you deal with that aspect of all this, too, where you're trying to focus on William Stanback, you're trying to focus on Alex Holland and McInnes not getting past you, but, oh yeah, there's VA who can also get some yards on you.
If you're forcing VA to run, you're doing your job as a defensive unit.
Yeah?
Because he's not able to push the ball downfield. He's pulling it, tucking it, and running. He's only got a handful of yards this year. He's not going to kill you with his feet. Yes, it's definitely a nice feature to have for your starting quarterback who's already thrown for over 1,000 yards to be as fleet of foot as he is, but it's not his game. He'd rather sit in the pocket and throw that ball deep, and obviously the stats would show that he's done a good job. So that's, the run game here, yes, there's pressure on the defensive line, but mostly on those outside pillars, those defensive ends to keep contained and force everything back in. Because other than those off-tackle runs, their run defense has been pretty stout. Really. I mean, they haven't been gashed up the middle.
Well, Kadeem Carey did go for 100 yards last week, and he's not a guy that really goes to the outside. He was getting him down the middle.
There was a couple I know off tackles that were first down runs that probably contributed
McMahon, his touchdown run was he just got to that outside, and he was gone.
Yep. No, it's been a killer for them.
It's been very concerning.
Still is. Jury's still out.
Well, that's the part about the early season. So you could say it's just 3 weeks. After 4, it's now.
No, this
is
is
now.
enough.
This is this is the finally now. I think we could evaluate through 4 games and go, okay, who is this team? So this is the final. Who are the 2024 Edmonton Elks? We find that out today, in my mind. We're live at Central Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, just off Fort Road, where every day is game day. Jump into the Nasty Chat. You can get in touch with us, 780-218-9999, which is the Paris Jewelers inbox. Still to come, we've got to get to our Coolbet prop of the game. We will hear from Chris Jones, who's the head coach and general manager of the Edmonton Elks, and our keys to an Elks victory. A reminder, the question of the night, are the Elks a better team this season? I'm going to quickly update the results of our Twitter poll, but you can always just text us or jump in the Nasty Chat with your thoughts. The voting right now, still 47% saying they are the same, still 0-3. 42% saying yes, they are improved, and then 11% saying no, they are worse, which still just doesn't add up to me. The third storyline for today's game, it's a few things all into one. It's the Edmonton Elks. They're on a short week heading out to BC. We'll get to comments that McLeod Bethel-Thompson had, but quickly, I don't know if you have this feeling. I've always had this feeling of watching the Edmonton Elks go to BC, play the 8 o'clock game, and there's just a weirdness that happens there. And it always seems to happen in favor of the BC Lions. It always seems that there's things that just go to the BC Lions' favor. That the 8 o'clock start always out in Vancouver always annoyed me watching this team as a young kid. Because there's something that happened out there.
Well,
I don't like it. I don't like the history of that. There's a gut thing in me that says, no, I don't like when teams go out to BC because there's always some sort of officiating in favor of BC in weird ways. Their clock runs in a weird way. I don't like these 8 o'clock games on BC.
Well, you know what? You know what I do know is since 2014, 13 of the 24 games that have been played between these two teams have been decided in the final 3 minutes. Do we see that tonight?
I can tell you last year wasn't that.
13 of 24. I mean, that's, 60%? It's pretty good.
Yeah, well, the Lions weren't that great for some of that.
It's still an interesting stat.
Oh, absolutely.
I love when stats say, that's an irregularity.
Do we have that? Because they usually sometimes tell us the stats for the league like that. the CFL has been having a really good year this year of games being decided in the last 3 minutes. There's been 12 games played. 9 have been decided in the last 3 minutes.
Awesome. That's great. That's great for this league.
And that's what this league is. People like it legitimately. It's a league where anything can happen in those final 3 minutes. The game is never over. And that's not something you can say about a lot of the other football leagues. But let's get McLeod Bethel-Thompson. He talked about this short week, though, earlier. I will read you some of his quotes. The Edmonton Elks played Saturday. They get 5 days off. Now they're out in BC in Vancouver to take on the Lions. McLeod Bethel-Thompson saying, speaking to rights holder 630 Ched, some of the things he said, quote, kind of ridiculous, a lack of leadership in the CFL. Also saying, if we consider player safety at all, it shouldn't be a thing. He is frustrated about the Elks having not just this short week, but also having the massive travel. As for the BC Lions, they played last Friday against Winnipeg. And then they're home, though. They got 6 days off, but they stay home. Whereas the Elks, they had to go from Eastern time zone out in Ontario, come back home, but then just to go out to BC on a very short week. Is this something that could play up and impact the Edmonton Elks tonight, even where there's a reason the Labor Day set now was only 3 days off, but they moved. Ed Hervey made it a point to move it from the Friday to the Monday, Saturday. Those days off are so crucial in football. Or is this just?
I don't know if he's sending a smoke screen or something like that by saying that and trying.
I don't think it's a smoke screen. I'm looking at it as maybe this actually could hurt the Elks come in with a little bit of a disadvantage.
No,
I'm not saying
I
he's
couldn't think the
He's
opposite,
coming
actually.
and going with to the league player safety. What are we doing here?
Player safety. What are you talking about? I mean, I just disagree with this statement.
Okay.
Wholeheartedly. I think it gives you an advantage. I think it gives you less time. No, it gives you less time to be distracted. This team has been distracted. This team has been playing without mental toughness. This gives you less time at home to maybe get out of the game mode that you're coming out of playing on last Sunday and now playing on Thursday. It gives you less time to think, and I think that might be beneficial for this team right now, to be completely honest.
But is it like you played? Isn't like the body need that extra? Like, wouldn't that extra day be nice?
Nah, you need
and also you have the big travel. You have 4 hours from Toronto. You get home, and then you've got the 90-minute flight out to Vancouver. Whereas BC, they just had to make the one flight from Winnipeg, and that's it. They got 6 days off.
There's ice and ibuprofen. Everybody should be fine, unless you're seriously injured. But no, if you take care of your body, and that's what I mean. Maybe it gives them less time to focus on other things, like going out for chicken wings on Wednesday night with the boys, and then just getting to, staying focused in game mode, because you really haven't had a chance to lay off, right? I'm just saying it might actually be beneficial because, we've talked about it a lot. A lot of the mistakes that have been made with this team are mentals and lack of discipline. So if you stay in that hyper state of game mentality, I don't know. I just disagree with that statement. I don't like it. I don't know if what as your starting quarterback, what the hell are you worried about? What are you saying that for?
Well, I would say this is him trying to be a leader maybe in the CFLPA.
There's a time and place for that.
Wasn't
right
that the
now
time
is
and
not
place?
it when you're 0-3.
Okay.
I don't think.
Well, maybe then he's trying to distract the team.
That's what I said. I mean, maybe it's a smoke screen. Maybe it's something just to, I don't know. Hey, I'm standing up for you.
Well,
rah,
no
rah,
one's
rah.
talking about the 0-3. They're now instead talking about MBT's comments a little bit.
You're talking about MBT's comments.
Yeah, so it's worked.
Everybody else is talking about that they're 0-3 and possibly going to go to 0-4.
I'm talking about their
tonight.
0-3. Hey, look, I've been talking about the 0-4 start since February.
You just love that they're 0-3.
No, I don't. I just saw this coming. I'm one of the few people, I guess, that saw this coming. But I'm fascinated to see how today's goes because, honestly, going into this game, I thought I'd be a lot more fired up about an 0-3 Elks team than I am right now.
You're not fired up.
Not as, in an angry way. Because, again, to the question of the night, are they a better football team? Based on what I've seen, they are.
Right. So you're frustrated. And
it's a 7. They've lost to teams that are combined 7-0. And this is like the last big test that they have this early start of the season. And then it should.
Has something changed in your life? Like,
no,
are you getting massages regularly?
No, what happens?
Get a better haircut?
They're playing better. So what happens,
and
I did get a haircut today.
You look fantastic.
I did get it trimmed, so we'll see if Trev figures it out tomorrow, because he struggles with mine. No, the thing is, like, they've been played close. So, look, I don't have a good feeling that they're going to win today's game. Now, does that mean I'm going to come on the post-game show firing Chris Jones? There's a chance, depending on how today's go. But for the most part, I'm at a point now where I want to see them play against Ottawa. Because if they play the way that they have over these last 3 weeks, and they play that way today as well, then I look at Ottawa, Hamilton, Saskatchewan, and I could see 4 wins right there, and I see this team back at 500. And it's a brand new restart of the season. But they have, like, if you lose today, there's no room for error. Like, the margin for error is completely gone. There's no more losses allowed. But it's just based on the play that they've had this season. It's been good enough for me to go, I'm not going to be losing my mind right now like I thought I would have been in February if I was saying it's 0-3 going into Vancouver. At that point, I thought I'd be just screaming and making a scene here.
Well, and you know, it's interesting you bring it back to firing Chris Jones or not, right? I mean, and I mean, Zulu's in the nasty chat saying, "Did you hear, or did the team sell?" ? Or is it just rumors? Also, if they do lose, will Jones be out? And obviously, there were some rumblings going around, you know, on social media today that, yes, the team has been sold to a private
Well, it
group.
sounds like the deal is done.
The deal is done.
That's what the report is.
Funny that's coming in right now, right?
With Chris Jones and all that?
With just where we're at in the season. You know, 0-3, Chris Jones, people are calling for his head. I think tonight is a big
well,
you know what I mean? Are you reading the tea leaves that I'm putting down?
No, I know. Like, honestly, as you go into the season, you have to question how many losses can this team afford before you have to make a change. And this entire time, I would have said it's 4, especially because you have a bye week next week. That if you make that change, it's perfect timing to just allow things to settle, allow whoever's going to be the interim head coach of this team, whether it's on the staff of Jason Shivers or something, or whether you ultimately bring someone in just for the rest of this season. I would not be hiring someone for beyond this season. That's a perfect time. And we've seen enough sports to know that is the ideal time to do it. It's just, if they're playing better, if you're seeing those improvements, I could see now that maybe he survives. Like, that's why I'll say this right now. How this goes, to me, Chris Jones would need to be fired if this team gets blown out today. I've seen that enough in college football and CFL football and NFL football. A coach that's on the hot seat, when they lose 40-0, 30-0, 27-3 or something,
then the room's been lost
and everything's done.
Yeah.
And it's just you can't move on from that. That's the one thing tonight that I know. I feel like if we come on a post game show and there was a game like that we watched, I'll feel very confident. Be like, get ready for a press conference this weekend because it's coming.
I would agree if they do.
But if they play like they did the last 3 weeks and they lose by 3, I'm not so sure. Because I could feel like, you let the new ownership come in, let them make this change then if you're that close.
Well, that's what I think is happening here.
But they're not. You need to get it approved by the board, the CFL Board of Governors to sale. That's not going to take place in a couple days. That's going to take a little bit of time. So it's not like it would be an imminent change when it comes to the head coach from the new ownership. And I think, though, then Rick Lawlisher can afford to hold off and go, okay, well, the team's improving. They go beat Ottawa on July 14th. Well, maybe they do it again and beat Ottawa again, and all of a sudden it's 2-4. Then they get Hamilton, and I'm not sold on Hamilton. All of a sudden it's 3-4, and then they came close against Saskatchewan. All of a sudden it's 4-4, and it's a brand new season.
Just look at the timeline here. Isn't it funny how this organization, who's struggling to get fans in the stands, somehow, some way, this gets leaked today that the team is sold to a private buyer. Now everybody's got a little buzz. There's a little energy. So I think they're trying to save their own asses by saying, look, we're doing something about it.
Who's trying to save their own butts? The board?
The organization. The board.
They don't care. They're done anyways.
You don't think they care?
Well, not to save their own butts here because it's over. We know that the new owner's coming at some point. Hey, you want to give the fans what they want, give them number 2.
I need to have a drink of this 6 o'clock or lager.
You set me up for that. Green and Gold Kickoff Show. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne here on Edmonton Sports Talk live at Centric Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. That was our 3 stories of the game to watch. The Elks secondary taking on the BC Lions receiving core. The Elks front 7 taking on the BC Lions run. And how this short week is going to impact, if it will impact, the Edmonton Elks. Let's take a look at our Coolbet props of the game. To start, though, our EST Game Day Parlay. It's up at Coolbet.com. Click on exclusives. They give us a little bit of a boost. McLeod Bethel Thompson, 275-plus passing yards. Dylan Mitchell, 70-plus receiving yards. This game to be over 52.5 points. And the Elks to cover. The Elks plus 7.5. That is plus 475. Again, that's at Coolbet. Click on exclusives. Click on Edmonton, the Sports Talk parlays. Our parlay is right there. There is also a lock shop parlay that they put out for us. It's for the community, as they call it, with Huss being in Winnipeg, us being in Edmonton. The Edmonton Elks plus 7.5, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to beat the Calgary Stampeders. That's plus 230. I like that, actually. Especially the Bombers take. I'm not taking the Stampeders to beat the Bombers. Bombers could be playing almost anyone else, and then I'd be a little more concerned. But who's sold on the Stampeders?
Well, you would think you wouldn't, but, I mean, the Bombers are 0-3. That's the same record as the Elks. Now, would all the fans on Twitter say, oh, that's a way better team? No, they're 0-3. I wonder if those jabronis that answered B on that Twitter poll would have the balls to do that with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They probably wouldn't.
Well, they're not a better team.
They're still 0-3.
Yeah, but no, because last year the Elks were 0-3, so it was back-to-back years, 0-3, 0-3. The Bombers were not 0-3 last year to start, so naturally, right off the bat, they are worse.
But you've seen
based on the record
statistically. Stats don't lie.
But what's the most important stat?
I know, yards passing.
Wins, losses. Or actually, you could go with points.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
They don't have
the Bombers
any,
are too.
Yes, but the reason I had the Elks are still 0-3, like last year.
Okay.
Whereas the Bombers, they're worse than last year, even record-wise or stats-wise or eye test-wise. Every single way, the Bombers are worse.
True. Couldn't agree more.
You are 2-1 with your Coolbet props of the game.
Well,
Nailed it last week.
I'm going to try to go to 4-1.
You're going to give 2?
I'm going to give 2.
I'm 1-2 on this season.
Feeling it. Tonight's the night. Javon Leake's going to take one back.
You're just going with the touchdown, though. Anytime touchdown.
Anytime touchdown score. Even if he scores out of the backfield, plus 400.
But you think he's going to return it?
I think he's going to return it. I'm going to call my shot.
He was great last
And I actually think it's going to come off of a punt. Javon Leake plus 400. And I'm just taking the simple over. I mean, the over is hit.
You just stole my prop of the game.
Did you?
Over. That's why I have over.
Hey, great minds think alike. This is 2 times tonight that we've both been on the same.
You don't get that one. I get that now.
Okay, you take it then. You take it.
I'm taking the over. You only get the 1.
Now, it's currently at 53. I got it at 52.5. That is cashed in 2 of the 3 games for Edmonton this year. I don't see how that changes tonight. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. Either way, win or lose, I think it's going to be going over.
See, you can't just take 2 and then without me getting the 1 in.
Well, I guess we should have.
We should have spoke beforehand.
I guess we should have had a production meeting instead of you just sitting here on your phone.
Well, like, why are you taking 2?
We do talk.
It's the prop of the game.
Okay.
Well, like last week, I didn't talk to you about the injury report, and then I said, "Hey," and you're like, "I do my game prep," and then today you don't like. You're gonna give me. I'm gonna have 2 today. I don't know why I'm just throwing it on you fully here.
That's okay. Used to that. I'm a big boy. I'm thick-skinned. I'm okay.
Duck Dad in the nasty chat. What about the Pound the Rock exclusive? Well, I don't think we can't get an exclusive up. So is it up there? If this one's up there, then you could do that. I wonder if it's a Coolbet one. Coolbet exclusives.
Hey, Duck Dad, if
it is there. Pound the Rock.
Yeah, if Kevin Brown gets 50-plus yards, I think that's a big deal for Edmonton.
William Stanback, 70-plus rushing yards. Kevin Brown, 50-plus rushing yards. Combined, that's plus 300 at Coolbet. That one's under the Coolbet exclusives under exclusives. They got a few. They got MBT for MVP, McLeod Bethel Thompson, to record 300-plus passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and the Elks to cover at plus 220. They also got a couple BC ones. Vernon Adams Jr. to record 300-plus passing yards, and also having an anytime TD non-passing, and the BC Lions to cover at -6.5. That's plus 400. And then Alex Hollins, William Stanback, and Dakota Prukop all to score 1+ TD. That's plus 500. Going for 3 touchdowns. That's a little
lot
low.
Of stuff.
That's a low to me a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
But there you go. That's all over at Coolbet. So Jay, you're 2-1 this season with your props of the game. I am 1-2. I get the over. I will give you an asterisk if over hits.
Okay.
I'll give you a little
something.
It'll be
2.5 and
I'll give you a little something.
3.5 and 1.
Yeah, I'll give you something. I will give you something when it comes to that. When it comes to this team, how big are the penalties now? How do we correct this if you're Chris Jones?
Be better. Be more disciplined. How do you correct it? I don't know. Used to be you'd run the crap out of your players and make them pay for every penalty over a certain amount that the team agreed on. Penalize them for, penalizing the team. I don't think that works in professional football, though. I don't know. Maybe there's a fine system they could put in place inside the locker room. But, I mean, other than that, I really don't know, Matt. I really don't, because that's what I'm saying. This quick turnaround doesn't give them time to get out of their own football heads and focus on what – I mean, obviously the penalties have been problematic, and the timing of them. I mean, we've harped on it. It's probably sickening to hear again, but it's just bad penalties at bad times.
Well, that's the thing. Even if you go a couple weeks ago against the Montreal Alouettes, they only took 4 penalties in that game. But a couple of those penalties that they took were just crucial ones, were just killer ones. And then last week they just took a bunch of penalties, and in week 1 they just took a bunch of penalties. The Elks, 6th in the Canadian Football League in terms of penalty yards, given up 206. Ottawa has given up 210 yards on penalties. They've only played 2 games.
That's outrageous.
Like, that is absolutely wild that they are that far back, and Bobby Dice is going to want to fix that out in Ottawa. But yeah, the Elks, they're going to have to look at those penalties too today, and that's just all on the focus to me is just entirely almost on this defense. I feel quite confident in the offense, even though Trey Ford's not part of it. I feel really good about what this offense and what this offense can bring. I feel like they can put up points against the BC Lions. It's just a matter of, can you stop the BC Lions from giving up points? And 2 out of 3 weeks, the Edmonton Elks defense just hasn't even been close to being good enough when it comes to mistake-free, mental error-free, or mental errors. Yeah, mental error-free game. We just haven't seen that enough from the Edmonton Elks defense. We'll see if that can change.
Haven't seen it at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
it's unfortunate for Elks fans, but it's the
I
truth.
was just trying to think of that second game, and I mentioned a couple of penalties that hurt them, so I can't even go there. I'll take that game still, though. Give me that defense tonight.
Yeah.
Give me that defense tonight, and we'll see what happens. I have no idea what's going on TSN right now. I keep seeing food. Give me some football talk here. Get me some football talk. But it looks delicious. I haven't eaten yet, so I got to jump in and get something here at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. We're coming up close to 8 o'clock when the Edmonton Elks will be taking on the BC Lions. You can watch the game on TSN. Our boy Dustin Nilsson with the call alongside his supposed best friend in Glenn Suter. What? Do you think they went for dinner last night? I didn't hear anything about that.
I didn't hear anything.
So, actually, I know he didn't.
Yeah.
I know he didn't. So the supposed best friend. That's coming up just after 8 o'clock, like I said, on TSN. Right now here on the Green and Gold Kickoff Show, it's here from the head coach and general manager of your Edmonton Elks, Chris Jones, speaking to the media earlier this week.
Optimizing this unusual short week with the travel.
Yeah, it's a 5-day week with a West Coast travel this time, so it's pretty unique to have to travel from one end of the country, get back at 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then turn around and have a 5-day week. But it's part of the CFL schedule. And what we're liking it to is the Grey Cup, because you got to go over to Vancouver on a short week with a travel, regardless of what the situation is. Got to play a really good football team, and so that's kind of what we're liking it to.
I think in general, don't players and even yourself, like, I know you got to crunch with the film and stuff, but short week, get back out there, play again, and obviously in your situation, I think players are hungry.
Yeah, I mean, our guys are ready to play. I mean, it's not like we've played poor football. We've unfortunately lost 3 professional football games, and it comes down to that 1 or 2 plays that we've got to learn to make as a football team. And when we do, we're going to have a lot of success. We've got good players on the team. We've got good coaches on our team. Now it's just a matter of finishing.
And you've always said we got to keep it positive.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no one's handing out moral victories here, but at the same time, there are positives and you're inching towards that win.
Yeah, I mean, you still got some, they're still young men, and you've got to keep them motivated to want to show up, and and they got to show up with a smile and enjoy what they're doing. Otherwise, you're defeated before you go.
How did it look overall? It was a cat and mouse game. It was just
we
score, we score.
Yeah,
score.
I mean, I'd like to comment, but like I told them, I mean, my God, 5 days. I mean, day 1 and 2, so we've only we travel a day after tomorrow, so we pretty much we, like I say, I mean, there were good plays, there were bad plays, and certainly we need to figure out how to do things in the fourth quarter to help us win the game.
You've given up 12 offensive touchdowns. 7 have been through explosions. 2 have been on the run. I know 1 was a screen. It'll be a pass, but it's almost like a run. What do you think is going on?
Our perimeter defense needs to improve. We're not getting off blocks. You got to give the other teams credit blocking us on the perimeter. Our defensive backs, and then it comes down to overall top end effort getting to the football. We've got to, there's 12 guys on the field, and you can't assume somebody's going to make a tackle. You got to assume they're going to miss a tackle.
Okay, and tackling has been kind of an issue.
Yeah, I mean, when you give up that much on the run and you give up that much on the perimeter, there's guys that are missing tackles. We've got to do a better job getting them on the ground.
How tough is it to assess where this team is at right now? Because the 3 opponents you played this year all are undefeated, and the margin of defeat is only 14 combined points right now. So it's been close, but against very good competition.
Yeah, but like he said, there's not moral victories, and I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference between the best team in the league and the worst team in the league. So I mean, there's a lot of parity. There's a lot of. It's not like it used to. I mean, when I first came into the league, I mean, we knew good and damn well we were going to win before we ever got on the plane. I mean, it was just a matter of how bad, and because there were some very, very poor football teams. That's not the case now. I mean, even the teams that are 0-3 are very good football teams, and they're well coached and they got good players. So I mean, it's we've just got to show up and continue keeping our nose to the grindstone, and eventually it'll break.
Lack of a run game. I know when you have McLeod, the ball gets out fast, and he's going to get in 5 to 7 real fast. That being said, though, there's a physical element to the run that you would like to keep going back to it. But what's your philosophy right now? What's going on?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you have to be my philosophy is try to win the game. It doesn't really matter if it's through the air or on the ground. I mean, stats are for people to talk about, after the games are over. But we just got to try to win a football game. So if it means that we throw it 60 times, and that's what we'll do. And but we do have a good running back, and we do have guys that are physical up front. It's just a matter of putting it all together.
So it is a short week. There's a fairly important hockey game tonight with a local hockey team.
Yeah.
I wonder, while you're doing the work, is the game going to be on in the background?
It's been fun. It's been really, really fun. And you talk about being down, 3 games to none or 0-3, and not winless. And, and you see how they've battled. And it's been really, fun watching everybody kind of count them out and then giving themselves an opportunity. And that's all you can ask is try to get an opportunity to win a game.
Good story in there, right?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And even the Florida's coach this morning, he said, hey, tomorrow there's no practice. There's no practice, no film. And so I saw that on the TV this morning. I kept the TV on in the background and kind of heard that, and I looked up and kind of liken it to the Grey Cup. Well, same thing this week. We go to BC, and then we've got an off week. So it's very, very eerily similar. So we go over and play a very, very good football team that plays really, really good at home. Great measuring stick. Their quarterback's playing as good as anybody in the league. So I'm excited to go over there and see where we are, because that next day then we're on a bye. So there's no more film and stuff for that week. So we've got to. That's kind of what we're liking it to, and look forward to seeing our guys play.
Can a pro athlete learn from what he's watching, like a football player learn from what's going on hockey-wise and just what they see and everything, and vice versa, too, at some point?
I don't know. I mean, I guess, toughness-wise and kind of, mindset-wise, because I can assure you that all the naysayers and all the people, because you ought to see the it'd be fun to go back and rewind and listen to the people talking on the TV about them when they were down 0-3 versus now all of a sudden it's like a shoo-in that they're going to win the game, and so I mean it's going to be a great opportunity for them to do something really, really special, to be down that big, and it's good they gave themselves a chance, and now it's going to be fun if they end up finishing.
I've heard a couple of your guys just say, notice the atmosphere and the passion and everything, and they say, if we can start winning, we can experience that too.
I mean, it's a great sports town, man. I mean, they're used to winning, and they all these Grey Cup things up here. I mean, they like winning. As does everybody these day and age. So I mean, it's a matter of us just keeping our nose where it's supposed to be, worrying about what we need to worry about, and then continuing to keep a smile on their face.
And that was Chris Jones, obviously from earlier this week, before we found out the results of that game 7. If there is one thing, though, I will add that I remember tweeting it a couple years ago after the Avs series. We see, obviously, how much the Oilers take over the city in those runs, and rightfully so, and I understand why. It'd be nice if just the Elks have to win for this to happen, too, a little bit. Like a quarter of that could focus on this franchise.
Oh,
and
the quarter?
Buzz, just a quarter. I'll keep it small. Just give me a quarter.
Give me an eighth.
Oh, you want to go even small? Yeah, give me just that little bit, and how big of a deal that would be for the Edmonton Elks. So, but they need to win, and if there's one thing I saw last year, they won 2 of 3 going into the Labor Day rematch. Obviously, it was also the Labor Day rematch, but they won 2 of 3, almost won the Labor Day, and the fans started returning. So, got to start winning those football games. Got to start winning those football games.
Got to start somewhere.
Let's get to our keys to an Edmonton Elks victory. Jay?
Well, I'm going to keep it really simple and straightforward. You have to upset and disrupt Vernon Adams Jr., try to create some turnovers, and get the ball back to your offense. I think if you can do that once, maybe twice, that's going to be enough to change the game, because the offense is, at least 2 out of the 3 games has been moving the ball down the field quite well. So if they can get to Vernon Adams, use those sack leaders that are on that front 4, disrupt the passing offense, I think that bodes well for Edmonton. I'm
going to go with 2. But see, I'm going second, so I know it's not going to steal from you at all. That's the beauty of being the second one here. It's just starting with the penalties right off the bat. I just want to get that one out there. That's just such an obvious one, but this team, it's been crushing the last few weeks, so those penalties. The one I'll go with, though, is limit those big plays. We talked about it earlier. 5 of the 6 touchdown passes that the BC Lions have thrown this year have been big plays, 20-plus passing yards. The Edmonton Elks, they have struggled a little bit with those big plays. So, as you alluded to it and said earlier, keep the play in front of you. Limit those big plays. That's the thing I would think for this defense and this secondary. I think that would help contain, and that maybe, I think if they do both of ours, we're talking about an Elks victory, maybe. That's why they're the keys to an Elks victory.
Hey,
see how that works?
If both those things happen, I don't see.
It would come down now, and then all of a sudden it's all in the offense. And did they put up points? And did they do their job? Which I think based on this season, I would assume that they're going to do.
Well, we talked about it last week. There's Jekyll and Hyde sometimes. And then we determined through Google that Dr. Jekyll was the good guy.
I didn't Google that. Did you?
I did.
Did you?
Yes.
In the end?
And Hyde's the evil bad person. So just keep it Jekyll. Offense. If you can keep it Jekyll and the defense can get you the ball back with some turnovers, pressure Vernon Adams Jr., keep everything in front of you. Keys to the victory.
Prediction, Jay.
Like I say, I think this is going to be a high-scoring offensive affair. I don't think you're going to stop completely the BC Lions from putting points up. I'm going to go 38-28 Elks.
10-point loss. Interesting. Elks won't cover on that one. Elks, Lions. Thursday Night Football. It's coming up on TSN. Our boy Dustin Nielsen, Glenn Suter with the call for you. You can watch it, or you can come on down to Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge still. Lots of time to get down here to watch with Jay and myself. Wheels is here. What is he eating? He's biting into, I think they've got wings or something like that over there. Come on down to Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. They do got the game day special, cheese and jalapeno smoky, or the daily special for today. It is the smoked brisket cheesesteak. They also have just a great menu in general. You had the
That's
pizza
what you're
last
getting,
week.
right? The smoked brisket?
I don't know. I might actually go back to the
smoky.
smoky. I might actually jump back on the smoky.
Okay,
We'll see. I got to debate that. That's the early game debate that I'm going to have. But time to still come to Century Casino. We'll be here for the post game as well, right here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in iHeartRadio, as well as on YouTube. Your clear choice for Edmonton sports. Coming up next here on our audio stream, we'll join the Edmonton Riverhawks game in progress. To everyone else, thanks for tuning in to the Kickoff Show. Enjoy the football game, and we'll talk to you once it's over.